Hi, this is Albert Grande from pizzatherapy.com, legendsofpizza.com. I'm talking to Jeff Varasano, a legendary pizzaiolo who owns a pizzeria in Atlanta called Varasano's. But Jeff has a history of making pizza in his home oven. As a matter of fact, so much so, and it was reported in the New York Times, that he would trip out the oven and force the oven to go in the cleaning cycle so he could boost up the temperature of his oven so he could cook his pizza at 700 or 800 degrees. True or not true?
No, it's true. I think there's a lot of people that do this now, but I was doing this back in like 2002, 2003 was the first time probably 2002 was the first time I broke the lock on the oven, and I wrote it up in my long blog post, which went up in 2004 and sort of went viral, I think, in 2005. So a lot of people that do that did source it back to my having done that. What I actually did first I lived in an apartment, and I knew I needed more heat on the oven, so I actually did wrap the entire oven in aluminum foil to boost up the heat, which actually works. It was a regular gas oven. I was baking it under the broiler, but it sort of melted some of the plastic, and so I stopped doing that. And then when I bought a new house, it had an oven with a cleaning cycle. I'm like, a cleaning cycle. I didn't realize, I thought cleaning cycles were chemical, but actually it's just incineration, just blast heat. So I was like, well, if I can get inside it, if I can, break the lock, then I can get in there. I can start baking. So the first attempt actually broke the lock, broke the oven, couldn't start it, freezed up the electronics, had to get a repair visit. Eventually, I sort of clipped the lock and got it to work. But as I was mentioning before, I had a lot of, there were a lot of issues with it that took overcoming. Like if a drop of sauce gets on the glass shattered. And that happened 3 times.
Wow.
Which I cover, basically the way to handle that is to try and cover the door with very loose fitting layers of aluminum foil so that if any liquid hits it, it hits the foil and the heat dissipates. And a couple layers so that it doesn't get to the glass. That's the best way. You can sort of tuck the foil into the edges of the oven. If you usually have little holes.
Okay.
Then I also had a fire where a piece of clam actually rolled off a pizza, rolled onto the bottom and burst into flames. Actually what ended up really happening with that was it burst into flames, and I put the fire out pretty quickly. It was hard to see with the aluminum foil covering the glass, but we did figure it out, and I got the clam out and continued with my pizza party. But the next time I went to bake pizza in the oven, I have to start it about an hour ahead to heat it up. I came back and the oven wasn't that hot. It was like 300-400 degrees, and I was like, what's going on? And I opened up the door, and the entire door was filled with yellow dust. And what had happened was that little nub that was left on there that I couldn't scrape off, that little nub of that clam, had burst into flames and burned a hole, almost like a push can, almost like you'd see like a Coke can, where it pushed a hole in the metal that had burned into the insulation, and all the insulation somehow had flamed out and covered the entire thing with yellow dust.
Unbelievable.
Then, of course, we also had probably about a dozen repair visits from just changing fuses and changing out the fans because it wasn't cooling off enough. It was overheating the cabinet it was in. So, I don't necessarily recommend this at home.
Right.
But having said that, it worked great. Pies came out great. It does take a little bit of practice because you really need a lot more top heat than bottom heat, which is something that a lot of people don't understand. I get a lot of emails from people talking about, I'm going to bake on a grill, but the grill's all bottom heat, and you really need a broiler more than a grill. So what I would do is I would cover the aluminum. So I would take the stone, the pizza stone, and I would put aluminum foil underneath it, so it wouldn't overheat coming up from the bottom, and the heat would go around it. And then I would take a pad of aluminum foil. So I take aluminum foil and I would crumple it and then fold it over 7 or 8 times so that it created like a thick, air-filled, thick pad that I would put on top of the pizza stone. And that would reflect any heat coming from the top back up to the top, so it wouldn't hit the stone. And this kept the stone a good 100 degrees, 120 degrees, something like that, cooler than the top. And that's the way you can actually bake the pizza perfectly, so that it will bake, get that nice char at the bottom, but bake the top at the same time. So we were baking. I baked as hot as 850 with that setup, but typically I baked more around 800, between 790 and 810. The interesting thing though is that a commercial pizza oven, once you get a big huge oven, like I use a Pizza Master oven, which is a Swedish electric oven, a great oven. That oven we bake a lot cooler, but it takes the same amount of time. So we're baking down in more like the 720, 725 range. And yet it bakes the pie in the exact same amount of time. 2.5 minutes is what I like. I don't really like the fast 1-minute pies as much as some people do. They look great in photos, but the actual taste, I think, is better on a 2.5-minute pie. But anyway, the hotter oven, the bigger oven will bake faster at a lower temp just because it's larger and it's imbuing more heat faster.
Right, right. Well, that sounds great. Now, I want to give
Sure.
a disclaimer here.
Yes, don't
do this at home. We're not recommending that you trip out your oven. To be only done by professional electricians and pizza fanatics. But no, I wouldn't try this at home. It could be dangerous.
What I can recommend at home, because I have a lot of people email me all the time. Jeff, I read your whole website, and because of you, I built a brick oven in my backyard. I'm like, did I ever say to build a brick oven in your backyard? On my website, I certainly did not. The problem with brick ovens is this. And I'm going to give you a recommendation in a second. Part of the problem with brick ovens is this. The $20,000 Stefano brick ovens that you see in the Neapolitan pizzerias are great, but they don't scale down. If you're going to get a smaller version of that, if you're going to find a plan online, won't give any names, everybody knows the sites where people get those, and you're going to build a smaller version, I don't think it scales properly. Just like I don't think home mixers scale down from commercial mixers. It's a different process. So I don't recommend that. I've not had very many good pizzas come out of homemade brick ovens. I think if you want a brick oven, you've got to shell out the fortune to get a Neapolitan one, which imported. But what I can recommend if you want to do the cleaning cycle safely is this: get a cheap oven, just a single. I have the double oven with the glass. I think Maytag used to make an oven that had a cleaning cycle that was just self-contained. You could just put in the garage, not attached to anything, not near a wall. Just put it in the middle. Get it wired up. You're going to need probably the 208 volts, not the 120. Get one with no glass. Some of the cheap ones don't even have glass doors, which you don't need because it's just going to create a problem. And they're like $500-600, and you can get it to work.
Okay.
And I've tried that. And
all right. Well, that's certainly a good alternative.
Yeah. Or put it out on a covered deck if you have it, or something like that. So that's an alternative.
Now, to move on a little bit, Jeff, you went from making pizzas at home, learning all you could.
Sure.
I mean, you did all your research, you did all your homework. Mm-hmm. You went to all the best pizza places in the East Coast.
Yeah, right.
I know you went there personally, and Italy, and you learned how to
Italy.
make pizza. So you took it to the next level, to the professional level.
Yeah.
So give me, 2 or 3 tips that you'd give for someone that wants to get into the pizza business.
Location. It really, no matter how you slice it. I know a lot of people in the business want it to be about the food and just the artistry, and I'm importing my sea salt from my little grandmother in Italy who carries it over. That's all nice, but the truth is that it's a business, and you need to understand, a lot of the business factors, and that does include especially, location and understanding your concept and your model, not just your food. When it comes to the food, that's just going to take practice and experience. You obviously need a good kitchen design. You need good equipment. Just shameless plug: if you really want to make a great pizzeria, go to my website. And there's a whole tab about franchising, and we'll be happy to set you up. We're launching a bunch of new pizzerias this year. We've improved the model. We have great contacts with some of the malls around the country that are offering us spots. So there might even be one in your town that we can get you in the front of the malls.
Well, Jeff, what is that information? Let's give it out to everyone.
Sure. Just go to varasanos.com, and there's a franchising tab. And Varasanos is VARASANOS.com, or just Google New York pizza recipe, because they come up number 1 for New York pizza recipe. I Google number 1 for Neapolitan pizza recipe, so I'm pretty easy to find online.
Okay. Jeff, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to me. And we're definitely going to check out Varasano's next time we're in the area.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.